hit up my brother, he say acquiring straps. We love home and it's dangerous and people tired and trapped. We all meant to be angels, but demons tied to our backs.
There's an African proverb, it's like, if you want to go far, you gotta go together. If you go alone, you can only go so far.
People know me for my work with Jay-Z. Some of my musical heroes like De La Soul, people that are huge like Rihanna, Faith, and Mary J. Blige. Sometimes I sneak on a Beyoncé album every once in a while. I also worked with newer generations, which has allowed me and my partner, Ninth Wonder, to create Jamila and to bring in new blood. And our next biggest superstar is sitting right next to me, which is Reuben Vincent.
When I first was super young, when my pops used to pick me up from the house, he used to play the Pacs, the Bigs, the Jays, the Nas. My pops also was playing all the Afrobeat artists, and then I'm hearing like soul stuff, and I'm hanging with my friends who's listening to the new artists, and I started getting into my underground scene, whether it was like the Dillas, Madlibs, and all that stuff. We met when I was like a senior in high school. I remember when you came down to Raleigh, North Carolina for Ninth.
Ninth was always looking for new talent, recognizing something in someone, and he was just saying, yo, I got this kid. We gotta wait till his voice drop a little bit. You know, just funny things like that. It's the development stages. It's putting a lot into an artist and making sure that they're ready by the time that they're presenting themselves to the world.
After high school, I came up to Cali, and that's when I ended up staying at the crib and we just started locking in on everything.
Then COVID happened, and COVID was a big part of why we're actually in this space. What better for the artist development for me to say, hey, why don't you take this second bedroom and just, you know, let's actually do this every day.
In the house, we sleep, we sit here, we read, we watch, and there's vulnerable moments in that. It needs to be getting out in its raw essence and form.
A lot of people, when they're first getting started, they kind of lust after new gear. Let me get the most expensive thing. Let me get this thing. This will make my sound better. And I'm coming from the experience of what are the bare necessities that I need to make music. As many beat machines as I've owned through the years, my machine now becomes my beat machine of choice. It can do everything that every other beat machine has ever done way faster and better for me. I definitely don't see Guitar Rig as just for guitars. I use it a lot on vocals. Anything from effects to delays to ambiance to running samples through there and getting these different textures that you wouldn't normally get. Guitar Rig 7 allows me to do that and to play around and to save it. And Neoverb is just something like I can sync my pre-delay and my reverb to the tempo of my track. To be able to hit one button and now everything is in sync, everything is locked, it just speeds everything up. You know, there's a classic story of me doing something on Meek Mill album. Jay had a guest verse, and I'm really supposed to be flying to Africa to go do a show with him and B. I'm mixing that record and pushing my flight back. If I didn't have Nectar to speed up my process, the record just wouldn't have got done. So many producers are in their bedroom without an artist, trying to make beats to send to an artist. They kind of overproduce the thing. You're in essence scoring a movie with no script. The audience doesn't know anything about this process. They don't care. All they care about is what comes out of these two speakers. Utilize the tools, have the necessary tools, but don't lose the fact that we're making music. And music is about a vibe. If the vibe is there, that is the record. Matter of fact, we should just stop talking about it and go do it.
Let's go.
A lot of times my inspiration comes from records, taking records and chopping them up. One of the things that inspired me was from a guy named Mario Luciano. You know, he sent me a bunch of music. So as a normal digger, you just go through and you kind of pick the parts that you want. And that's sort of what I came up with. To another chop. To another chop. To another chop. So I would do that for like a hook part, a verse part, and try to do some variation and some sort of intro to take us straight into the record. Then I added an 808 to start out. At this point, I'm not necessarily thinking about, oh, let me hurry up and EQ this. When I'm in the middle of just the idea, I want the idea to flow as fast as possible.
The reason why I chose this beat was because of the aggression that I heard in the chorus and the sounds. I feel like as a creator, it should never be an overthought on what you're saying, because it all should come from your gut. When I heard the beat, I was like, okay, these are the first words that come out of my mouth. That means this is where I need to go. That's how I, attack it, is just being present with myself and what I'm feeling in that moment as the beat calls for.
I'm very specific about drums. Like, I have a huge collection of what we call break beats, going through records, finding spots where the drums just play by themselves and recording just those spots. So if I go to my breakbeat folder, it'll have all of the thousands and thousands of records that I've ever found with the drum part just isolated by itself, so I could quickly run through those. For this particular one, I loaded up a breakbeat, isolated. You can see it's chopped up. Just using this kick, along with that 808. The 808 is giving me the thing that'll keep me modern for what's going on today, but then the kick is just giving me that punch. The other interesting thing, I took the snare from that same exact place, so huge reverb on top of it. Same simple pattern, but it's starting to give you this feel now with the beat. Okay, what are other parts that I could pull from that break beat? That's just a regular, just a regular break beat. And I didn't want it to be just that break, which is the reason why I came over here and added all these effects to it. It may sound weird by itself, but in context, it's like a little flavor that comes in and lets you know we're about to go to a different section. Okay, this is enough for somebody to write to. He's going to immediately either catch a vibe or not catch a vibe. At this point, we start looping this beat and he's starting to write. So I would just bounce all these tracks out and put them in Pro Tools. The only other thing for me is what the key of the record is. I'm dangerous once I know the key of the record.
Right. I
can put this keyboard or my actual machine in that key. You can even see I was going to start adding some things. This is a great expansion pack, made by 40. It has drums, it has keys, and I was just using the key part of it. But it's just like, all of that is the funk. All of that is the difference in the way that you're making that chord work. Now we've just transported this to Pro Tools because I like to record in Pro Tools. I'll make sure that these tracks are not too loud. If I want to hear it louder, I actually just turn up the volume knob versus me turning the faders up. Make sure that this is F major. I have my tempo in at 81. I'll make a couple of markers. I wanted to bounce this snare dry because I wanted to add my own reverb to it. Neoverb is just an amazing reverb. It does things that I didn't think reverbs could do. You have a reverb assistant. This assistant play around with different styles. You can do this live. We have this orange thing is the hall chamber, and then we have all these reflections up here. The more that I move this around, it's going to mix all three. You have this pre-EQ shaping it to go into the reverb. So right now it's ducking a little bit of the lows because I don't want all of these low frequencies going into the reverb. It's not EQing the sound that you hear, it's EQing that sound going into the reverb. And then we have the reverb EQ. Without EQ, sometimes it gets really muddy. Unmask will do exactly that. It's looking at whatever the source material is and it's unmasking that so that this reverb that I'm putting on it doesn't muddy up the track. If I open up this panel, I get into all of my parameters. This little thing here will allow you to be in time with whatever the BPM of my session is. Being able to just click a button and have it all in sync is really speeding up my workflow. So it's easier for me at this point to just play the beat, ask him if the level is loud enough, that he'll just let me know, hey, turn the beat up. When he says turn the beat up, I'm actually turning my headphone amp up. My workflow is plug him directly into this preamp and set the level of the preamp first when I'm recording. He may get it and we may keep it, but he knows that this is I'm setting a level take.
I'm traveling through terminals. No home is where my heart is, and back home is where I service. I'm taking trips for work, and that's the reason why she's hurting. But love me for my work, they hate the fact that she gon' have to learn to share me with the world. Though the bag is getting heavy, the bag is getting heavier. The Christ like crown I carry, rappers mad as Angeletti. Know I sacrifice myself to see the shackles rise. Never cap to capitalize, cast a stone and bat they eyes. Combating with the comfort zone I sat in.
Now I've checked all the levels, and that was a good performance, but then there was a couple of little spots. I think you could just do the second half over again.
The sucking home shatter left me hungry for the ladder, when nothing even matters but to heal. The top of that was always something I was after, but that hill is the exact one that had Lauren calling Adam. Cause in theory they got tactics and fear of us, cause they inferior to the whole package. Interior design, exterior was godly crafted, so anytime I look inside the mirror it's miraculous.
Perfect. I know that he's gonna layer some things, but do you want to get the second verse out first and then layer everything?
Let's do
okay.
it.
Hit up my brother, he say acquiring straps. We love home and it's dangerous and people tired and trapped. We all meant to be angels, but demons tied to our backs. We all running our race, but many probably be lapped and many probably relapse. Addictions left them crippled, admit that I was attacked, but still won't claim I'm victim or minimize I perhaps part of the problem, part of the violence. Sometimes my pride is stronger than I am. Feel like
You want to listen back to it with one little flub, and then we might be able to just get that.
addictions left them crippled, admit that I was
crippled.
Addictions left him crippled.
But many probably be lapped and many probably relapse. Addictions left them crippled, admit that I was attacked, but still won't.
Breaths are important in where you punch in and out. You want to make sure, and all of that is still in there very clear. You want to do ad-libs for this? How many tracks you think you want?
Give me like 6.
Yeah.
If you ain't talking about change, 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 if you ain't.
Now we get to jump into making the song. And what I would do first is just bring up Nectar. One of those things that sped up my workflow like you wouldn't believe. I guess I'll make this a little smaller. Every plugin should be able to resize. The main point of this is to use the assistant to get us started. So I run over to the assistant and it tells you exactly what to do. Play audio to get started.
Though the bag is getting heavy, the bag is getting heavier. The Christ like crown I carry, rappers mad as Angeletti. Know I sacrifice myself to see the shackles rise.
And just that fast. Now, if I click here, I can see all of the different things that I may need. We can go over here and we can actually tell it what key we're in. So I'm in F major. I'll take off the reverb. I don't need that because I'm actually sending this reverb on the vocal. So our first EQ is doing exactly what I would do, looked at whatever the problem frequencies are, and it's dipping those frequencies that will build up just from the microphone that you use to the room that you're in. The normal way that you would do this is if you just pulled up an EQ and sweep and find out where the most irritating noise is, and then you would pull that down. This allows you to do that off the bat. Then we have a de-esser here. I'm gonna actually disengage the de-esser and see how that sounds. This compressor is one of the most important parts. Set it to a 4:1 ratio. This attack for me is extremely long, so that would be the first I would adjust. I would go here to the start of my vocal.
Traveling through terminals. No home is where my heart is, and back home is where I service. I'm taking trips for work, and that's the reason why she's hurting. But love me for my work, they hate the fact that she gon' have to learn to share me with the world. Though the bag is getting heavy, the bag is getting heavier. The Christ like crown I carry, rappers mad as Angeletti. Know I sacrifice myself to see the shackles rise. Never cap to capitalize, cast a stone and bat they eyes.
When I'm setting thresholds for vocals, I want to catch those parts that are popping up without squashing and taking the life out of the vocal.
Traveling through terminals. No home is where my heart is, and back home is where I service. I'm taking trips for work, and that's the reason why she's hurting.
Traditionally, our last EQ is not a corrective EQ. This is the EQ that's adding and removing. And if you notice, we have way wider, way broader cues. How many of the adjacent or side frequencies are affected? That's what a cue is.
Trips for work, and that's the reason why she's hurting.
So there's a little bit that I'm losing, so I would boost back up just a little bit of this low.
Traveling through through terminals. No home is where my heart is, and back home is where I service.
The other part that I would check is the auto leveler.
But to heal the top of that was always something I was after. But that hill is the exact one that had Lauren calling Adam.
Once we put the plugin on, it's a way more controlled vocal. Now that I have the level matched, when I take the plugin off, the vocal sounds a lot more muddy. It sounded great when we first recorded it, but now that you've affected it and you see how precise you can get, it's sitting so much better in the beat.
Traveling through terminals. No home is where my heart is, and back home is where I service. I'm taking trips for work, and that's the reason why she's hurting.
Now I'll deal with the de-esser because I do feel like it needs a little bit of de-essing. I'm making sure that it is not creating, number one, a lisp in his rapping, and then two, that I'm not dulling out the sound. This is where I'll be really particular about setting the threshold level and bounce back and forth in between the two.
Traveling through terminals. No home is where my heart is, and back home is where I service. I'm taking trips for work, and that's the traveling through terminals. No home is where my heart is, and back home is where I service.
What I'll kind of do is go a little bit overboard just to show you each component allows you to mix between your 100% dry and your 100% wet signal. Pay attention to those words like sacrifice myself. So listen to that traveling through terminals.
Traveling through terminals. Traveling through terminals. No home is where my heart is, and back home is where I service. I'm taking trips for work, and that's the reason why she's hurting. But love me for my work, they hate the fact that she gon' have to learn to share me with the world.
And just that fast.
Trips for work, and that's the reason why she's hurting. But love me for my work, they hate the fact that she gon' have to learn to share me with the world. Though the bag is getting heavy, the bag is getting heavier. The Christ like.
When I bypass this, it gets duller. When I put this in, it has way more presence without volume. So it sounds louder, but it's actually not getting louder than where the other, untreated vocal is. And that's the magic of the plugin. And that process used to take me forever. This is when I would do a lot of effects. So what I'm trying to do is sit down and think of interesting ways or things that I can add on to that vocal. And this is where guitar rig comes into play. And we're gonna make this the guitar rig mono that goes into stereo, because there may be some effects that wanna become stereo. Cool, so now you guys can see this new guitar rig. It looks amazing from the presets to the components. And I would flip through presets. I love loading up things that are different than what it actually says. There's so many just presets that I could just flip through and just keep going. I would just go over and over and over. Crazy. And that's really the idea, using guitar rig for something that you wouldn't normally use it for. A lot of the lo-fi stuff in this particular iteration of it is incredible. I can go in and just add things and take things away, tempo sync everything that's in here. It's an incredible, incredible tool that you don't have to use it just for guitars. Now is when I would sit down and sort of tailor the reverb. It's the same thing that makes everything so special with all of these plugins, this assistant. And I play.
I'm traveling through terminals. No home is where my heart is, and back home is where I service.
You notice that it came straight on. Normally when I'm using Nectar, it analyzes it, it spits something back to me, and then I go tweak and adjust. With this plugin, I can tweak and adjust as I'm listening to it. So this is really giving a lesson too for those that sometimes don't understand, what does a small thing sound like? What does a medium thing sound like? What does a large thing sound like? What do those words mean? What is clean, dark, bright? So now I can sit and go.
I'm traveling through terminals. No home is where my heart is, and back home is where I service. I'm taking trips for work, and that's the reason why she's hurting. But love me for my work, they hate the fact that she gon' have to learn to share me with the world.
And of course, at all times while I'm sitting here listening to that, I have my wet and dry, like how much of it do I actually want? And then we can do different styles. Maybe I want medium.
I'm traveling through terminals. No home is where my heart is, and back home is where I service. I'm taking trips for work, and that's the reason why she's hurting. But love me for my work, they hate the fact.
I'm just sweeping through so that you can hear the difference. So obviously here with Realistic, it's smaller. It's not as long of a reverb time.
I'm I'm traveling through terminals. No home is where my heart is, and back home is where I service. I'm taking trips for work, and that's the reason why she.
And now you're hearing the difference in the type of reverb that you're going to get. So I hit next.
I'm traveling through terminals. No home is where my heart is, and back home is where I service. I'm taking trips for work, and that's the reason why she's hurting.
That took what? 7 seconds?
Yeah.
The first thing we're seeing is an auto cut, cleaning up this lead vocal going into the reverb. And then unmasking will allow this to sit in the beat more and not muddy up the mix. Before we even get into the reverb, we don't need any of this low stuff over here. Then we have our reverb EQ taking out a little bit of the 1K because that's going to muddy up the mix. So many things rest at 1K.
I'm traveling through terminals. No home is where my heart is, and back home is where I service. I'm taking trips for work, and that's the reason why she's hurting. But love me for my work, they hate the
For Reuben's lead vocal, I don't need to continuously do that over and over and over again for all the other vocals. So I go over here, hit new, rename it, and now we have the Reuben verb inside of our user presets. These colors are reflective of whatever's here. I can blend all three of those with this little button here in the middle.
I'm traveling through terminals. No home is where my heart is, and back home is where I service. I'm taking trips for work, and that's the reason why she's hurting. But love me for my work, they hate the fact that she gon' have to learn to share me with the world. Though the bag is getting heavy, the bag is getting heavier. The Christ like crown I carry, rappers mad as Angeletti. Know I sacrifice myself to see the shackles rise. Never.
And you have all of your deeper controls. If I click this little button here, it's now in tempo, and I can also do that on my pre-delay. Now everything is the tempo of the song.
I'm traveling through terminals. No home is where my heart is, and back home is where I service. I'm taking trips for work, and that's the reason why she's hurting. But love me for my work, they hate the fact that she gon' have to learn to share me with the world.
It's just an incredibly fast and very detailed way of doing your reverbs. So normally I would sit and put it on my reverb that's on an aux and send everything to it.
She gon' have to learn to share me with the world. Though the bag is getting heavy, the bag is getting heavier. The Christ like crown I carry, rappers mad as Angeletti. Know I sacrifice myself to see the shackles rise. Never cap to capitalize. Cast a stone and bat they eyes, combating with the comfort zone I set.
Once I get to that final point, then I would come onto my master, and we all love our friend Ozone. Now we have this new Ozone 11. I'm going to listen to this track.
Hand me the crown, bury me a G, I ain't worried about nah, say, I'm traveling through terminals. No home is where my heart is, and back home is where I service. I'm taking trips for work, and that's the reason why she's hurting. But love me for my work, they hate the fact that she gon' have to learn to share me with the world.
First thing that I have to stress, see where that level is. This is allowing so much headroom for this plugin to be able to do what it needs to do.
Traveling through terminals. No home is where my heart is, and back home is where I service. I'm taking trips for work, and that's the reason why she's hurting. But love me for my work, they hate the fact that she gon'.
This gives you such an incredible starting point, especially for people who are trying to learn mastering. If there's things that you like about this, you can look at each one of these and figure out why it chose to do those specific things. As we flip through all of these, dynamic EQ is just pulling down problem frequencies that we have. And then we get to our maximizer. We have all of our major formats over here. Do we want upward compression? Do we want soft clipping? Can also enhance the transient.
Though the bag is getting heavy, the bag is getting heavier. The Christ like crown I carry, rappers mad as Angeletti. Know I sacrifice myself to see the shackles rise. Never cap to capitalize. Cast a stone and bat they eyes, combating with the comfort zone I sat in.
If you're coming in way too loud on a streaming service, they're going to turn you down. Your mix that you had really loud is going to sound a lot weaker because they're turning the whole level down to match with their LUFS levels. That's a beautiful thing that we can know exactly where we are so that we're not getting turned down on a streaming service. Ozone has become one of the favorites. This new 11 update looks sleeker. It's the same powerful tool that allows people that are sitting in home studios to get to really fast results that sound really good. This is something that you yourself can do. Take the time to figure out what these tools can do for you. It will allow you to talk to your engineer better, or some people engineer themselves. Reuben recorded the other 40% that we're talking about with his album at home by himself. So as you can see with Music Production Suite 6, we have all of these incredible tools to get you from creation all the way to finishing a record. We're doing it here in my home, so you can see that you can do this in any studio. We haven't named this track yet because we just literally made it. We wanted you to see us making it, and maybe we'll release this record a little bit later after Reuben's next EP.